Do you think you are good at choosing gifts?
Not really. I actually struggle with it a lot. I always worry that the person won't like what I pick. I usually end up asking for advice from other friends, or just getting a gift card so they can choose for themselves.
What kinds of rules do people need to follow in public places?
Following rules in public places should be a no-brainer for everyone. For example, in places like libraries or cinemas, we're expected to keep our voices down and not disturb others. It's also essential to not litter or smoke in prohibited areas, since this shows basic respect for the shared environment. By observing these simple guidelines, we can create a clean and comfortable atmosphere, making better for everyone.
What do you usually do when you have days off?
It really depends, but I mostly use my days off to recharge. I love catching up on sleep first, and then maybe meet a couple of close friends for a meal or just hang out. If I'm feeling a bit more active, I might go for a walk in the park or finally watch that show I've been saving.
Do you usually spend your days off with your parents or with your friends?
I'd say it's a mix. On regular weekends, I tend to see my friends more grabbing food, going shopping, that sort of thing.
Is salary the main reason people choose a certain job?
Well, in most cases, salary really is the main reason people choose a certain job, because income directly affects how comfortably or uncomfortably daily life runs. Before people even think about passion or job satisfaction, they usually have to deal with rent, bills, and basic security, which makes pay a top priority rather than a nice bonus. For example, someone might enjoy a creative role, but still go for a higher paid position simply because it offers stability and independence, especially in cities where living costs are no joke. So while salary may not decide everything forever, it's usually the first filter people use before anything else even gets considered.
Why should we protect wild animals?
We should protect wild animals because they are an important part of the ecosystem. If they disappear, the balance of nature will be broken. Some animals also provide resources that humans rely on, like food or medicine. Protecting them is also protecting ourselves. And finally, it's about responsibility. We share the planet with them.
Is making study plans popular among young people?
Well, it's actually hard for me to say whether making study plans is truly popular, because it really depends on what kind of person someone is and how they usually manage their time. Some people naturally like structure, while others prefer going with the flow. So planning habits vary a lot. That said, what I've noticed on social media is a strong focus on an idealized self-image. People picture a more disciplined, productive version of themselves after sticking to a plan. At the beginning of the year especially, you see loads of posts about new study routines or fresh starts, and the comment sections are full of people saying they're doing the same. So, in that sense, making study plans often spreads as a trend, driven by shared motivation and collective optimism.
What should people consider when choosing jobs?
Well, when people choose a job, it usually comes down to balancing practical needs with personal fit, because a job has to pay the bills, but it also shapes daily life in a pretty serious way. On the practical side, people often look at income, stability, and whether the job leaves any room for a normal life, but at the same time, interests and strengths matter, since doing something that feels completely wrong can drain energy fast. For example, some jobs look great on paper with high salaries and fancy titles, yet come with long hours and constant pressure, while others may pay less but allow people to grow steadily and stay sane. So in the long run, a smart job choice isn't about what looks impressive, it's about what people can stick with without burning out.
Do you still keep in touch with your friends from childhood? Why or why not?
Yes, I still keep in touch with a few of my childhood friends, though not as often as before. For example, one of my best friends from primary school is now working in another city, but we chat on WeChat from time to time and meet up during Spring Festival. I think these friendships are special because they've seen you grow up. They know all your embarrassing stories and still accept you. Of course, some childhood friends naturally drift apart due to different life paths, but the ones who stay are like family, and that bond is hard to replace.
Do you think the government should invest more money on concerts?
Well, I'd say it really depends on the government's finances. If the economy's doing well, then sure. Investing in concerts can enrich people's cultural life and even boost tourism. But when public funds are tight, it makes more sense to prioritize essentials like healthcare and education. At the end of the day, concerts are wonderful for community bonding.
Why do some people like to live in big cities?
Well, I think most people like to live in big cities mainly because life there is super convenient. Everything's fast and efficient, which saves people a lot of time and stress. You can get food delivered at a.m., take the subway to almost anywhere, and solve most problems just by tapping your phone. On top of that, big cities also mean more opportunities, better jobs, more connections, and a bigger stage to show what you can do. Sure, it's busier and more competitive, but for many people, that's exactly what makes city life exciting. You never feel stuck in one place.
Why are Japanese animated films so popular?
I think Japanese animated films are popular because they often have very deep meanings and beautiful artwork. Unlike some cartoons that are only for kids, these films tell stories that are relatable for adults too. They often talk about things like friendship, nature, and growing up, which touches many people's hearts.
Do you like chatting with friends?
Catching up with friends is honestly my favorite way to blow off steam after a long week. We usually end up cracking jokes and sharing some pretty hilarious stories or even some juicy gossip, which really helps me unwind. I guess chatting with friends is my go-to way to stay connected and keep life interesting.
What do you usually chat about with friends?
To be honest, whenever I hang out with my friends, we always end up swapping some juicy gossip. It's kind of our thing. We also love to talk about the latest restaurants we've tried, TV series we're watching, or rant about how tough work or study can get.
Which do you think is more important, practical skills or academic skills?
I personally think practical skills are more important because they can be applied directly in real life and the workplace. For instance, knowing how to use certain software or communicate effectively often matters more than abstract theories. That said, academic skills shouldn't be ignored as they build a foundation for long-term growth and innovation. Ideally, people need a balance, but if I had to choose, I'd say practical skills make a bigger difference in daily life.
Describe a positive change you made in your life.
Well, I'd like to talk about a positive change I made recently, which was starting to exercise regularly. This happened about 6 months ago. Before that, honestly, I was kind of lazy. I'd usually just stay home, binge watch shows, and snack all day. Then, one day, I realized I needed a change. My health wasn't great, and I was constantly feeling tired and stressed out. I decided enough was enough, so I signed up at a local gym near my place and promised myself I'd stick to it. At first, it was tough to keep going. I started small, just jogging around my neighborhood a few times a week, and gradually moved on to longer runs and gym workouts. I also got a workout buddy, which really helped. Having someone to motivate me made a huge difference. I think this change was positive because I started feeling healthier and more energetic almost immediately. I noticed that my mood improved dramatically, and I wasn't getting sick as often. On top of that, exercise became a great stress reliever. It helped clear my mind after a long day at work. Now I'm honestly hooked, and working out has become something I genuinely look forward to. Overall, I'm really glad I took this step.
What do you usually do on your birthday?
I keep it low-key dinner with close friends and a fancy cake. As I get older, I care more about quality time than big parties.
Is celebrating your birthday important?
To me, yes, it's a nice excuse to pause and appreciate life. But I don't need extravagant celebrations, just being with loved ones is enough.
Why is setting goals important in the workplace?
I think setting goals is crucial in the workplace because it gives employees a clear direction and keeps them motivated. Without goals, people may feel lost or just complete tasks mechanically without really understanding the bigger picture. For instance, if a sales team knows they need to reach a certain target within 3 months, they are more likely to plan their strategies carefully and work efficiently. Moreover, goals also provide a way to measure progress and achievements, which can boost confidence and create a sense of accomplishment.
What do family members usually have arguments about?
I think family members usually argue about small but recurring issues in daily life. For example, parents and children often disagree about study habits or the amount of time spent on mobile phones. In many households, chores and responsibilities are another common source of conflict, like who should do the cleaning or cook dinner. Money can also be a sensitive topic, especially when it comes to spending priorities. But in most cases, these arguments don't last very long. They're more about expressing emotions and breaking relationships, and families usually find a way to compromise.
Do you like to get up early in the morning?
Not really. I'm not a morning person at all. It takes me a while to shake off the sleep and get moving, especially if I stayed up late the night before.
What is your morning routine?
First, I scroll my phone for a bit. Then I grab some quick breakfast and take a shower. Nothing fancy, just trying to get myself in gear for the day.
Is breakfast important?
Totally. It helps me kickstart the day and keeps me from feeling like a zombie by noon. I can skip lunch, but I can't function without breakfast.